Good evening, everybody. Do not adjust your screens and do not look at your calendars. You do not need to panic. It's not Monday night. It's Wednesday, and we're here for a very one-off special because major news has happened in the world of Suffolk football. Ipswich Town have been taken over. What seems like the longest built-out saga for quite some time has finally come to an end. And I'm once again joined by my colleague and good friend Adam, who is a massive Ipswich Town fan. And we're here to digest the news from an Ipswich perspective. But more importantly, we're also going to be talking about things from a non-league perspective. And where does this now leave us in terms of non-league as a whole? Where do we go from here? What do we, how does non-league approach this now? There's a lot of factors to go into it. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing for non-league football? As I said, the whole ramifications for Suffolk in general. We've got a lot to unpack this evening. So before we kind of delve into it too much, and whilst we allow people to kind of come in, because we haven't really advertised this a massive amount, we've been talking about this all day and decided to kind of let people know very lastminute.com. But before we go into it too much, Adam, first of all, how are you feeling? Because as an Ipswich fan, this must be a very, very special day. What was your immediate thoughts when it first broke, and how are you feeling now you've had a few hours to sit on it and digest it?
Immediately, relief. I think that a few people will share that with me. This has been rumbling and rumbling and rumbling. I think mid-February was when I got the first heads up around it happening and kicking off. And all of a sudden, we thought, well, this will get through nice and quickly. And then Paul Lambert imploded.
Yeah,
I directly blame his behaviour and what happened in front of camera post-game for the delay to what happened, because I strongly believe that there's no way Evans would have wanted to pay him off before a takeover went through, because the financial settlement on his contract would have been significant.
Yeah.
And he was never going to walk. Like, let's not beat around the bush. They said it was all mutual, but that would have been a sacking in the end of at the end of the day. A lot of relief on my part that everything has gone through and completed, the transaction's done, and Town fans have got something to focus on that's positive. There's been very clear expectations set out today from day one as to what they want to achieve.
Yes.
I'm skeptical about how they're going to get there, if I'm honest. I've got several reasons for that. But it's not going to be a walk in the park, is it?
No. I think from what I've seen, and a lot of people have been saying, we're going to be splashing the cash, and this is exactly what we should have been doing 13 years ago, and we're going to be buying this player. We're linked with this person. We're not going to get the Aaron Drinnans of this world anymore. We're going to be going after this player. We're going to be getting that caliber of player. It's utter rubbish. It's utter tosh. If you actually look into what the owners have said and how they want to move the club forward and how they want to do things moving forward, you're not going to be splashing the cash like people think they are. It's not going to be people waving their 20 and 50 pound notes at Carrow Road like it was back then. It's a different era and a different time. And the owners have already made their feelings perfectly clear on that part. But there's been look, I get why Ipswich fans are excited. I really do. Like, it is probably not to the level of Mike Ashley at Newcastle, but it's like up there in terms of the fan base just having enough of an owner and anything just to get them out. And you'd accept anyone at this point. But there's a lot to digest, and we'll go into a bit more in detail. But I don't know. As I said, it could just be me and my allegiances just sort of saying to people, you need to calm down a little bit. But I get it. I 100% get why people are so excited about it.
Yeah, it's a new dawn, isn't it? It's a fresh start.
Alex, it's nice to have people in charge of a club who understand the sport. Well, that is very true. They do have a history of going into clubs, sorting them out, restructuring things and getting them on the right track. But I think what is quite key about all of this is that they don't do things quickly. They take their time. They are very methodical. They're very careful with how they plan things and how they do things moving forward. So, you know, as I said, it's going to be a potential slow burner. But as I said, people have kind of raised their expectations, haven't they? They've already sort of saying like it's next year, boom or bust for Paul Cook. We have to go up next year. If we don't go up this year, we have to go up in order to start this. It's like, Jesus Christ, guys, just calm the hell down. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. I mean, do you get why people are thinking that way, or are you kind of more of a take a step back, look at the bigger picture kind of objective?
I think Paul Cook's going to have to be held accountable at some point. He hasn't had the new manager bounce that you'd perhaps expect. He has inherited, however, a group of players that I don't know. They just don't seem to. For me, it starts with the energy they show on the pitch, and they can show energy for 10 minutes. And you know, the first expectation in football should be that you work hard. And but when you can't even do that, you're going to have problems.
But do you think that they're playing like that because they already know that part of them just already knows that like their time is done? Like they're not going to get a chance to play for the club again. Do you think there's any part of that?
Ipswich have had this situation in the past historically where contracts have been allowed to wind down. We've lost some fantastic players through contracts winding down and lost players that were worth money, players that we spent money on. One of the ones you got to think about is Grant Ledbetter. Like, he's gone on to play football continuously since leaving Ipswich. He got some pelters at the time, but he at the end of the day, he was a solid player. And you've only got to look at how many players Ipswich have let go or lost that have carried on playing at a higher level. And there's got to be some culture that's ingrained in that club that they're not all that worried about renewing contracts. Yeah. And they must know that if it gets to January and people are still not doing anything about it, then do you know what? They probably think, I need to start getting my agent to stick my name around. But for Christ's sake, you'd think they'd be playing to show that they've got some ability. They're not even doing that.
No, you would think that now that the new owners are in, the new manager is in, you'd think that they would be running for a brick wall to try and say, right, I know things haven't gone quite well for us this season. I know things haven't gone quite well for the team. But I want to be a part of what you are doing moving forward. I want to be here as part of that change because Ipswich are, even before the takeover, they were going to be one of the highest paying clubs in terms of a salary wise in the entire league. So for a lot of these players, they're not going to have an opportunity to go and earn that type of contract elsewhere.
Yeah, so, but is that symptomatic of a relegation or symptomatic of the club? I think it's just the fact that they still had leftover contracts from the Championship and they never expected to be where they were. I think Marcus Evans has instilled a much more frugal way of managing finances day to day, and he'd stripped out a lot more. And I think if he was, League One contracts would have been much, much more reserved. At the end of the day, he's still paying out these Championship contracts. And I think that's why a lot of these players have been allowed to wind down. But the thing that they've proven is those on Championship contracts are not even worthy of being League One players.
No.
That's the first task the owners have got to sort out. Look at the coaching team, look at the scouting team. How do they assess the club's in-house players by comparison to what else is on there in the market? And how do they choose what to keep? Because none of those players are turning up week in, week out. There's not a single player who you would now go and buy a club shirt and have their name put on the back of it.
No,
you wouldn't do it in your right mind.
No. Even people like Flynn Downs and Wolfington at the back have just been meh this season. Like, from the games that I've watched and from what I've kind of looked from an outside perspective, there's not one person that's had a solid season. Not one person deserves, I mean, Christ, can you imagine what player of the season is going to be like for Ipswich this year? Jesus Christ. Who the hell wants to win that? It's like the most, it's just bizarre. Just really bizarre.
I know there was a comment there about club expecting us to walk the league, right? The thing is, the thing is, we've played terribly week in, week out. We've gone strings of games without winning, right? We're still only a couple of points away from the playoffs. I'm not afraid to say this league is terrible, but we still can't. We can't,
yes, it's bloody terrible. It really is.
You cannot be as poor as Ipswich are and still be within touching distance of the playoffs. That shouldn't be allowed to be a thing.
Yeah.
But then you go to bottom of the league at the weekend, and from what I understand, no one at the club knew that the takeover was impending, and they play like that. They've got a new manager there that's wanting to know who in that team is going to stand up and be counted, who his men are in the dressing room that are going to rally round.
Yeah. By the way, everyone, I have put the link for today's show in the chat. If you want to come on and give your thoughts and opinions on it, feel free to come on. As I said, the link is in the chat right now. If you want to come on, whatever the case may be, if you want to talk about the ramifications of non-league football from this, if you want to talk about the Ipswich part of it, feel free to come on the show. Feel free to come on. Dan said, I think Norwood, you've got to give him credit. He got so much sick and then he started to play well.
Norwood's actual return, considering his substitute appearances and his injuries, hasn't actually been all that bad. But when have we had Norwood fit?
Yeah. Well,
that was rhetorical because the answer is never.
Yeah. He's getting injured because he's trying too hard to play for the shirt and getting injured because of it, says Dan. That's potentially a fair point. Fair point to discuss. Ben has put, Judge should have ripped this league up and he hasn't. Wolf and Downs and Dazelle will still be here and get better quality players in and around them, and that will be the spine, I hope. We will be lucky to go up. Like I said, I don't think this season's a write-off as far as I'm concerned for Ipswich. It's not gonna happen in a million years, because if those players were going to be doing something, if they would show any fight or effort to get out of that league, you'd have seen it 5 games ago. You're not going to see a bounce and a reaction from it now.
I think anyone can argue it's a shame the takeover wasn't able to be completed in December. Something that's been talked about for a year, but it's a shame they couldn't get the paperwork through, get it done in December, and then maybe have a new manager in place and have a whole transfer window. But those would have been panic buys. I'll come to that in a minute, Alex. Those would have been panic buys. A month of research with a new team is no good. This is actually the very best time for a takeover to happen. You'll see a new team put together for the scouting, I should imagine. I hope to God they put a new team together for injuries, because any player coming to town is going to be worried about their rehabilitation should they get injured. And longer term career impact.
But this is the thing with Ipswich. They don't only just need to sort out the first team. They need to improve the youth setup again, because it's not been what it once was. That needs a dramatic overhaul to get it back to the level that everyone remembers. Like even I, as a Norwich fan, was jealous of Ipswich's academy. That was the one thing that you could pinpoint with Ipswich and say they have got that absolutely spot on.
But I don't think that's going to happen, James.
But we've overtaken them. We have overtaken Ipswich by a country mile. We have taken over Norfolk, Suffolk, Cambridge, and parts of Essex. We have completely taken over the whole of East Anglia for being the number one hub to go to now. So that needs an overhaul. Scouting needs a complete redo. The medical departments, data analytics. The club they are at least 5 years behind Championship clubs and a million miles behind Premier League clubs. So you can get certain things right on pitch, but the whole structure around a club needs to be looked at. And by the sounds of things, they are going to be making those improvements. They are going to be doing that. But
my Christ, they sound committed. I mean, there's no point in us sitting here reading out statement after statement that everyone's been sitting reviewing all day online anyway. Let's not pretend like you haven't read it already. Everyone did the minute we got to 11 o'clock. It's just a waste of time. But they've put their cards on the table. They're going to invest. They've made it clear that the investments are needed off the pitch and they're needed on the pitch as well. Yeah. But what I struggle to believe is that the whole thing with an academy is it's a big progressive game. You have to improve on your facilities year on year to keep up. Youth development is also about facility development.
Yeah.
And keeping up. Now, as part of that sale today, part of Bent Lane went, and the space that they have available went with it. Now, I think Bent Lane was primarily used for the first team to do some training on, whereas Playford Road was always the academy. Now, that means everyone's going to be in a smaller space, and I can only imagine that means that expanding the academy in the future would mean a resite, which would be a massive cost. Yeah. If this is going to be a profitable operation, which I damn well hope it will, and I feel like that's the direction they're going to go, that's probably not going to be affordable.
No,
I don't know how much it would cost to build the facilities like Norwich have got, like the stuff that's available at CBS and stuff. But
we had to, in terms of what Norwich had to do, they had to get people investing into it because we just simply didn't have the money when Webber and Fark and co came in. First of all, we had to get people investing. I think it was like £5 million worth to redo the academy side of things. And it was all done through bonds and structures and stuff like that, which has all been repaid. And, people who did invest their money got plenty of return on it. But that was just one building. One building cost £5 million to rebuild.
I mean,
the rest of it, the pitches and all that kind of stuff like that all came later on. But it looks bloody impressive now, but it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money and a lot of effort.
I think you've got to respect anyone that's buying a football club at this point in time. The one thing I would say is I damn well would not want my pension invested in the company that's bought this club.
We'll talk about that in just a few moments. So Ben's put, I would play Norwood as a number 2 next season, get a goal scorer Rhodes in and better creative players in and around next season. KVY would still be here next season, or will he be a number 2? Dyer, Bramble, Ambrose, Wickham, Rose. I'm ashamed that the scum are in our land. This needs to change. And as Dan says, you see Norwich youth training at Witten Sports Centre. Yet again, this is the thing. Norwich sensed an opportunity the moment that Ipswich decided that their youth football wasn't important anymore. They had a youth academy, but they didn't branch out in terms of their community aspect of it. And that's where Norwich just swooped in. And I know because I do have people, or used to, and I still do have people who work within the community and the youth aspects of both Norwich and Ipswich. And Ipswich are now playing massive catch-up. Like, not joking, Ipswich are playing massive catch-up right now to Norwich. And I'm not just saying that as a Norwich fan. I genuinely mean that. Ipswich are so far behind, but not just Norwich. I'm talking like some League One teams and some League Two teams are ahead of what Ipswich are doing. So that has got to change. That has got to change if the club wants to progress. And it's all well and good saying these things and these visions. And I'm sure, Marcus Evans probably put out with the exact same statement that when he took over. It's about what you do. Actions speak louder than words. And that's what you've got to then wait to see what these guys do. Yes, they have a history of it, which is something that Marcus Evans didn't. I will give you that. 100% I'll give you that. But you've got to start seeing it in play here. And with that land now gone, with Ipswich not owning their stadium, there's a lot to sort out. There's a lot to unpack on here.
I feel bad for Marcus Evans. I've seen a few things today. Like, there's loads on social media, like on Twitter and that. Good riddance, Evans. Like the whole HMS piss the league shippers out again, but with Evans being chucked overboard. And like, without Evans' money, we would have been done. But you can't. I know he's not a football man, and I know he hasn't brought success, but he's kept us afloat.
The thing with Evans, which he came in and he didn't understand football, and he had that game plan of, I'm going to take this team to the Premier League. I'm going to do it with Roy Keane. When we're in the Premier League with him, we're going to get lots of money coming in, the TV deals, all that kind of stuff like that. He had this very narrow-minded vision of how he wanted things to be done. As soon as that came back to bite him in the arse, he was like, oh, shit, what the hell do I do now? Like, who do I go and approach? Do I get this guy in? Do I get that person in? Because he didn't have the right team around him to advise him what he needed to do. He had nobody around him. And ultimately, that's why Mick McCarthy worked out so well at Ipswich. I mean, I know it's sour towards the end, but Mick literally just came in and just said, I've got this. Leave it to me. and I will sort it out for you. You just tell me how much I've got to spend, and I will deal with it. And
I
again,
think,
the moment
on
he
reflection,
left, all fell apart.
On reflection, the fans didn't have enough of Mick. They probably had enough of the things that Mick was being told to do. Now, he seems like he was probably working within his constraints and not really putting up a fuss about them, or they had their words privately and it is what it was. But it's like anything. It's like if you work in retail and a customer's got a complaint, you're the face of it, not the company that caused it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that pressure is the thing that pushed Mick.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly. Yeah.
That's a double-edged sword for. That's not far off. For Cook, that's a double-edged sword because he has got the burden of potentially the first time in a while we might be able to spend a little bit of money on players. The first time in a while we're saying have this new investment into scouting, have this new investment into your coaching staff, get the people in that you want. If that does not work, you might end up seeing a bit of a churn.
Yeah. Ben's put, he could have got a football man in, as there are people out there, people like Barry Fry. Instead, we got Lee O'Neill, who's a pissing PE teacher who checks grass at the training ground. Yeah, it's a fair comment.
There's too few people doing too many jobs. It's being run like a charity, not like a football club.
I think Lee O'Neill could have done a relatively decent job at Ipswich if he wasn't being asked to do jobs that he's not qualified to discuss. But that is the problem.
That's the point.
He was given the responsibility of doing everything when he shouldn't have been. But if someone's going to give you that opportunity, it's like, if I turn around to you and said, I want you to manage my company, Adam, and you don't know what the hell I do, are you going to turn it down if I'm offering you loads of money? No, you're not. You're going to go with it and you're going to try and just do the best you can.
The thing with Lee O'Neill is one day he's being asked to negotiate a contract with Norwood, and the next day he's being asked to sort out the pricing on a duvet cover and set of curtains in Planet Blue. You can't have someone do the same things. That's not the same job, but that's what Ipswich expected. You have got a team of people coming in there that know their marketing, that will know what 100%. They're doing, and 100%. All of a sudden the landscape for how the club is set up will change, and that might be enough to progress them off field, which will enhance players wanting to be there and do more for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do just want to go through one slide I've kind of created for this evening, just to kind of go through a little bit of a backstory and just to explain the new layout, just in case if you haven't kind of read it. I'm not going to go through statement after statement, but the main thing is on here, based on the interview that Mike O'Leary gave, is that Game Changer, the company, has been created purely to purchase Ipswich Town and for no other reason. There are now 3 owners with a 90% ownership called ORG, and that is a pension hedge fund. The remaining 10% is split between the 3 Lions, who are another hedge fund, and Marcus Evans. So as Dan put just a moment ago, Marcus Evans still has a 5% stake in the club. So for people saying good riddance, he is still there, not in as much of a capacity, but he's still there because he wants to get a further return.
He's a clever man, James.
On his investment. He's an unbelievably clever man. He's a very, very good businessman. So GC own 89% of Ipswich and fans only 11% through shares. They are now actively looking to try and get a CEO. The key words from the statements today is that promotion is possible this year, but if it's 1 or 2 years, then so be it. We are well funded. We can invest on and off the pitch to make sure that the academy is up to scratch and the first team is well invested. So, as I said, Evans is still there. He's still, in some capacity, not full, but he is still there. And as you said, from his perspective, like, do you know what I mean? He's made £100 million loss. He's written off a lot of debt for Ipswich. He's carried them. Granted, he hasn't made the investments that fans want, but fans live in fantasy lands about what can and can't be done.
Can we not forget, like a couple of seasons ago, he bought Caden Jackson for £1.5 million.
Yeah,
he's still spent reasonable amounts of money for the level that Town were at recently. He chose the managers he backed. He backed the wrong horses. I think if he would have given the backing to McCarthy that he gave to Roy Keane and honestly Paul Hurst, different ball game entirely.
Yeah. So Ben, his background is academy. Keep him in the academy. Will he still be here, or is he pissing off for me? I'd keep him, but get him in the academy with Klug. I'm guessing that's referring to Lee O'Neill, which
there was no statement on him leaving, but he was an Evans recruitment. So
Dan has put, be interesting to see what the season ticket prices are going to be due to they're going to be coming out soon. On my O'Neill, on about Lee O'Neill with my comment. Yeah, good man.
Dan, the season ticket prices have been leaked already. I've seen them.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's not going to be interesting when people react to them.
So yeah, as I said, it's going to be a slow burner with Ipswich because the way that they're kind of talking about the recruitment that they're doing is the way that they're describing it is that they need to find hidden gems. They need to find recruitment at a level that's affordable for the level that you're at, but ultimately it is looking to buy, invest, sell. That's the ultimate model, which a lot of clubs are nowadays. Even clubs in the Premier League are operating under that model. Nothing wrong with that. But as I said, I think for people who have been coming out online today and via various forms and different means and been saying, oh, we're going to splash the cash, we're going to be buying this person, we're not going to be scouting the likes of Aaron Drinnen anymore.
Building a new stadium, that's a highlight of today.
Yeah.
But a few places, like, utterly ridiculous.
Yeah. But Aaron Drinnen was a punt and hope, let's wait and see kind of signing, wasn't he?
That's how he plays football, punt and hope. But it's not how you sign him. But blind faith.
But those types of players are the result of scouting somebody. Let's give him a chance in our league, in our country. Let's see what he can do at the level, and then try and make some moves from there, and then potentially look to sell him on. Obviously, it hasn't worked. But those signings are still going to continue. It's just that the people scouting them are going to have a little bit more knowledge than what people had at the moment. So I think
I'm not going to lie, it's embarrassing.
People need to forget.
It's embarrassing we're only now like announcing that as our scouting. What were we doing before? Ordering VHS tapes from Blockbuster? Like, honestly, we're now investing in analytics. Seriously?
Yeah.
So we want to follow the model of Brentford.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
So what was this about the stadium, man? I haven't heard anything about this then. What was this about?
I've seen on various places, again, social media, like just things saying, oh, do you think it'll mean in the future we'll have a new stadium? Like, we're getting so far ahead of ourselves. All right, the Cobbold stand or whatever it's called, the rusty one, proper falling apart. But you'll be lucky if a few bits get a new lick of paint and they'll get a sponsor in that, you know, they'll put some white seats in with the sponsor's name. You might have Adidas in the seats or something daft. Like, you know, I think Magical Vegas are due to disappear this season. So I don't know. Like someone else say, are we going to get sponsored by Hooters? Like, just because we're owned by an American company doesn't mean that we're going to be backed by
Dunkin' Donuts across the front.
That's what I mean. It's just utterly stupid. The marketing will be specific to the, you know, to this country and what will get the most income.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the demographic of League One is not going to be great. The only out I could see for them is if they went with some sort of, because this is being owned by a hedge fund, I do wonder if they'll use that as the sponsor for a tax write-off, which is perfectly possible.
Portman Road will now be the Hooters and Taco Bell Stadium.
They'll be walking around with T-shirt cannons at half time.
I'll tell you what, if Miami Dolphins play at Portman Road, I don't care if it's Portman Road, I am there. I am 100% all over that. Over that.
Have you seen the size of the borders around the edge of the pitch? It's barely big enough to walk around as it is, let alone get a touchdown.
There you go. Alex, bring back Green King sponsorship.
That's the point. That's the kind of thing I'm getting to.
Yeah.
You use people that are local and actually right for the demographic. That's sensible marketing, which will get big money.
Ipswich Town, sponsored by the Suffolk Non-League Show.
I don't think they're going to match our budget, to be honest, mate.
Come on. Anybody watching from the club, make it happen.
They'll basically need us as a charity partner.
That's fine. I'll work for that. I don't care at this point.
Say, if the investment that we've got planned for the show is going to come off, then we'll definitely need to be a charity partner.
yeah, not wrong. I'll tell you what, we've had half an hour of talking about Ipswich. Let's talk about our side of things now from the non-league perspective, because Dan makes a very good point here to bring it back to non-league football. I think that with the non-league teams, players may decide to go to Ipswich and watch them rather than playing on a Saturday afternoon now the takeover has been done. What do you think about that?
It's a bit of a hot take, Dan. Do people that play really care that much about watching? Like, that's actually a genuine question, because I don't know. I always view people's playing as being a bigger love than watching. Taking part would trump watching a game. However,
I don't know. Maybe you won't see it too much in terms of first teams, maybe, but reserve teams might be a different.
Oh, you mean like general commitment throughout could be different?
Yeah. I think maybe reserve team players might just go, do you know what? I'm not in the mood for this. Ipswich are playing at home today. I want to see what they're about. I'm just going to go and watch them for a bit. So potentially from a player perspective, I didn't even think about the player side of it. I was thinking more about the fan side of it before coming on live. But that's a great point, Dan. Really, really is a good point.
I messaged someone on Twitter today, and I said, like, obviously, like, all getting a bit excited about the news sooner than we thought. We thought that sort of, we're going down this route of Blue Action, needing to do something to remove Evans, and things were going to drag on. And all of a sudden, 11 o'clock Wednesday, everything's kicking into force, and we're looking like we're having an absolutely monumental summer ahead. Now, the size of that summer, the names that are attracted, and the buzz that's created, I think that then feeds into whether or not Dan's point is relevant. Yeah. It depends how big and how good that summer is. And it might get worse towards the end of the season. People might think, no, I'm going to go back to playing. I've been able to play in a couple of years. Then people jump on that bandwagon when you start doing well. And then they start to want to go and sit under the stand instead of stand out in the pissing down rain. See, again, that's the route I would have thought people would go, Ryan. I'll be honest.
Dan's put, I've got a few that watched week in, week out, but when they were run by that clown, they stopped and started playing SIL football again.
Look, it's a tough one. At the minute, today is a day where everyone's going to be really happy and think the future is absolutely golden and we're driving off into the sunset. We don't know what the future holds. I'm generally like, I'd rather be a bit skeptical about these things and be proven to be wrong in the future. And if it proves to be right, I'm not going to be massively disappointed and get frustrated and lose the love over it. I've done that once before. I've sort of learned to temper my expectations with it. But yeah, you do have a point, Dan.
I think from my part, I'm more worried about the fans side of things from moving forward, because we got to know quite a few people down at Stowmarket, and I'm going to use them as an example for this, who were the older generation, maybe the guys in their 50s, 60s, that kind of era, who had just simply fallen out of love with Ipswich, and they've come down, they've discovered non-league football, they've discovered Stowmarket, and they've said, you know what, I have more fun here than I do going to Portman Road now. It's just not fun anymore. I don't enjoy it. I'm enjoying my non-league football. How many of that generation are now going to go, oh, actually, this is now happening. I want to renew my season ticket. I want to get myself back down to those games, because we saw it with Ipswich Wanderers, didn't we? The campaign that they've got going on at the moment is there is a difference. You can support a team in Ipswich that take care and they have pride in their community and all this kind of stuff like that. What happens to that campaign now? To try and get people to come down to non-league football, where is people's loyalties and splits going to go?
If they're clever, they push it even harder, because people shouldn't be swung by a marketing campaign that has a load of money pumped into it just to make people spare £350. If you keep driving that you've got local community and passion, and you can have a season ticket with us for, I'm just going to say the word £100. I don't know how much it costs. and come and enjoy us and sell the benefits, that's fine. If you think, oh, there's no point anymore because Ipswich have got new owners, you've lost your battle already.
Yeah.
You've still got to keep pushing that, because I think they're onto a good thing with it. And while Ipswich, if they carry on performing poorly, the campaign will become even more relevant. Get people committed now. Make them sign up now. Get your money in your pockets. Open applications for season tickets now. Be smart about it. Say there's only so many available at set prices. Get income into the club.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point. But I am genuinely worried that people are going to start switching their allegiances back towards Ipswich. I am worried about it, because non-league football has had a bit of a rise in terms of the number of fans that have come down because of the slow and gradual decline of Ipswich. Now there's this upturn. I just don't know how many of those guys are going to stick it out. I really hope they do, because there's so many things that non-league football can do to keep those guys in. And, there's, there is the community aspect of it. There's the community feel of it. It's the being part of it. It's the beer and the drink by the pitch. It's being able to talk to the non-league players, talk to management, get that interaction from the guys, hear what's going on the ground level, and just feeling like you're part of actually something special. I think people need to keep hammering that point home at the moment, rather than just being a number and a soulless season ticket holder. But I don't know. I do worry about it from a fan's perspective. I mean, from an overall picture of Suffolk football, it could be a really good thing. But we'll talk about that in a few seconds. But I said from a fan's perspective, I don't know.
But that you can double down on that, James, for us, because Norwich, if they go in the Premier League, and we're talking about fans going back, I know it's all going to be season tickets, so it's a little different at Norwich. Norwich's demand for season tickets is absolutely unprecedented compared to what Ipswich have achieved.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And, they operate wait lists and stuff, whereas Ipswich, the only wait list they operate is to pick up a warm pre-poured beer. I do worry that we've got a lot of clubs in our area all being successful. It's fair to say Peterborough are in a situation where they're looking to elevate through the leagues. Cambridge, they're elevating through the leagues, and we're talking Newmarket and teams like that in that area, like Manchester, like teams still that are relevant to us. Like, every team in our area actually has something to look forward to. Unless you're a Southend or Colchester fan, then you may as well very quickly look for a different club to support, because you're not going to enjoy anything for a while. It's absolutely woeful. Someone said Colchester are playing Southend soon and wanted us to do a watch along. Now, I can't be bothered really to do a watch along, so I'm proposing we do a sleep along.
Well over that. Dan, if I remember, I can't remember what furlough none team it was when Town were away. A club offered half price entry for season ticket holders from Ipswich.
That was one, wasn't it?
Well, Irvers put he thinks it was Felixstowe on there, but again, that's a clever way. Ipswich are away today. Come and get involved in non-league football. Again, that's a really good initiative and a really good campaign.
But because of league restrictions, you're only allowed to do it so many times a season. Right. So there's league restrictions where I think you're only allowed to do that 10 times a season. It might actually be less. Now, that's smart at getting people into the ground. But what clubs need to turn on to is that secondary spend is more important than primary. Yeah. So the primary spend being the cost of the person getting through the gate. Now, if you do that half price, you're losing £4, £5, right? Yeah. Now, people will pay £4 for a beer when they get in. So the more of those £4 you lose, you'll make 3 more £4 on the bar. Yeah. Plus the food. Plus, if you're clever about merchandising, which Felixstowe are absolutely on point, you've got a little shop that sells badges and
I am this close to buying one of their shirts. I'm not even joking. The amount of times I've seen that advertised on social media this week, I am this close to buying one and getting it framed and put it on the wall.
What, you mean like my Coddenham one I've got?
Yes, like that.
With Suffolk non-league show on it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. Like, there are ways and means of doing it.
Yeah.
But this is where I don't mean this is to be horrible against clubs, but I struggle to see where we're always in touch with what is needed to market the club as the ownership of clubs becomes a more aging population. I feel like we struggle to stay in touch with the things that could push us further. It would be beneficial to start thinking about marketing and about ways in which you encourage the secondary spend over the primary, and ways that you utilize the rules to your own benefit. So having a day where you can have different prices and you let the league decide is not a pay a pound to get in or pay what you want to get in. It's a utilize something locally that will encourage people to come down and fill your ground up to your capacity. If you're only allowed 300 people in, you want 300 in that ground every single week. If you can make it happen. Bury did it very well.
But it could well be that instead of, if we are worried about the ramifications, if people are thinking, oh well, we've only got this number of times that we can use this with the league about cutting prices on tickets. How about entry is standard price today, but for every person that comes through the turnstile, the first drink is on us. Something simple like that. It doesn't affect the ticket prices. You're not breaking any league rules. You're getting people into your clubhouse, and the moment they step foot in there once, they will come back for a second one. They'll come back for a third. People will then come back and want to buy other stuff in the clubhouse.
But the thing is, like, if you're clever, it's your second pint that's free because you have to buy a first.
See? Again, this is the thing. I think a lot of people could. Then they need to broaden their horizons about not just concentrating always on the same 50 to 60 people that turn up all the time. It's got to be the bigger picture. But I think a lot of people in non-league football are just very blinkered about how they do things. And the younger generation of people who are trying to put these ideas in place really need to start shouting a bit more and really start to try to bang on the door and trying to make things happen, because we need to find other ways and creative ways of being able to encourage fans back in, because the more
our clubs will suffer if we don't, James.
Sorry?
Our clubs will suffer if we don't. It's a really strong point you make. If we don't do that, if we don't encourage those people to have a voice and to give those ideas about how to improve things, the clubs will suffer.
But we saw it with the newspaper cuttings out that Grunsborough did recently. The amount of SIL clubs that we've lost in the past 10 years. Where are we going to be in 10 years' time?
The thing is, transposing those ideas to an SIL club is very hard.
Well, it is from an SIL perspective, because not everybody has the clubhouses available. But again, other people, from an SIL perspective, there are so many clubs that have got it absolutely spot on with the way that they do things. They've got sponsorship. They talk about advertisements. They talk about their social media platforms, and they really, really broaden their minds as to how they can try and do stuff. It's not necessarily just about a pint at a game of football. It's the bigger picture. But again, people need to open their minds a little bit and just explore some options that are available. Because, as I said, the more positive stuff that goes on down the road, the harder and harder it's going to be as the years go on. Because the higher Ipswich start climbing up that ladder again, there's going to be a lot of clubs that are going to find it incredibly difficult to keep up.
But we can link this back to it.
That's my concern.
Link this back to Ipswich very, very easily. So James Norwood scored and had those WWE gifs.
Yeah.
Went absolutely global. Wasn't even a picture of his goal. It was the gif. Now, link this back into non-league. What happened with Matt Blake?
Yeah, that gif went mental, didn't it?
Right. What if a sponsor would have paid to stick their name on those gifs? What if they would have marketed those gifs out and said, look, these are what we've got. We think these have been done in a way that we think that they could go viral, would you be prepared to sponsor this player's gift? Now, if somebody wouldn't pay 50 to 100 quid to have one of them for a season, you're mental. Because the amount of times, like strikers, that can be done easily, Dan. The amount of time a striker's name is going to be popping up, easy. And I mean, you can absolutely easily just contractually write something in that would say, you know, if this player was to leave through the season, 50% would be payable back to the sponsor.
Yeah.
And then all you've got to do as a club is you've put 50% into paying off the cost of the GIF and whatever else you want in the club goes towards someone's tracksuit or whatever. The other 50% is banked for the end of the season when you're then looking to help do the pitch or something around the advertising boards or something.
Yeah.
And then you're starting to think about income that works bit by bit by bit. And I can promise you there's clubs out there that are now having their full-time sponsored by somebody. Look at the big clubs, what they're doing. Our full-time announcement is sponsored by. Yep. Those are worth so much money because so many people see them. And you will see stuff like that at Ipswich now start to explode because they have got people that are savvy to it. And as non-league clubs, we need to think that that is not out of our reach.
Yeah.
In fact, it's the most easy thing we can do to impact both our finances and the professionalism of what we do. Yeah, finding sponsors is difficult, so you offer smaller, cheaper, more accessible ones that have higher volume impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Didn't know you were in the chat.
Cue. Right on cue. Our main sponsor is Whip Street Motors. There, you see? Do you know what I mean? Like, just there are so many things that people can do. It's just about having those conversations. It's just about being prepared to. It's just being prepared to open your minds a little bit and just try and explore some different things. You don't always have to go, as Adam said, that main sponsor on a shirt. You don't have to have a main sponsor of every single thing. It's the little tiny things, and all of those little things all add up and make a massive difference towards the end of it. I mean, we've done it on the show here. We've got different people sponsoring different parts of the show, and we will have different people doing other stuff.
It will still carry on to grow. It will have to. It's the only way that things work. And
exactly.
I've learned very, very quickly that if you tell somebody that, you know, I want you to be main sponsor of a show and this is what we want to charge you, they're far less likely to go with some big lump of money just to be a main sponsor than they'd be far happier to have their name out there and share that space. And it's so much easier to sell shared space than it is main space.
Yeah.
Because the amount of money you're dealing with is smaller in an environment that's more hotly contested. That's what I'm saying. Low-cost things have a huge impact.
Yeah.
And that's where people have got to get to. And what people have got to get out of their heads is that we'll go back to a goal GIF or a player's thing. I mean, we're so far away from the Ipswich talk. It's unbelievable right now. We should have done this on a Monday night show, but never mind. If somebody comes,
I didn't know we were going to go down this avenue. To be honest with you, I kind of just I knew I wanted to talk about some of the aspect of it, but I didn't realize. I mean, we can clip this up and we can, well, whatever. Carry on.
We've gone hardcore marketing here. If people want to say that, they've done the GIFs and then they put them out to tender for whatever, advertise it in a program, put it on your social media, because it doesn't matter if that says this is sponsored by Bilbo Baggins or by McDonald's. It's whoever wants to pay the money that you think it's worth. Yeah. Having a brand on there doesn't matter. Having someone to pay the funds and back it does. Things that are viral video, if you can say, I've got someone filming our goals and we're going to, I think, to what Sean Watson does. If he uploaded those clips and they had someone that was willing to have their name put in the bottom right-hand corner, say, of clipped goal clips, there's every chance that once a season, one of those will go viral. And that sponsor is all of a sudden rubbing their hands. And what have they had to pay to put it out there? But what does it do for the club if they're able to get 100 quid for it? It's 100 quid you've never had before.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. I mean, I was going to talk about the impact of, as well, higher up the leagues that Ipswich go. What impact does that have in terms of players that can be loaned out to non-league clubs in our area? And the impact of the youth recruitment side of things, because the better Ipswich get at that, is that then going to have a knock-on effect for the likes of, say, for example, Lowestoft and for Needham, for Leyston's, who are our higher non-league teams, further down the pyramid. Our Ipswich's scouting side of things is going to get better at that aspect of it. And they can cherry pick the best people from different academies throughout all of our clubs, can't they? They can just go around doing whatever they want. Because I think for a lot of years they've probably neglected that quite a lot.
So
it's an interesting talking point for me.
It is, and that is actually genuinely one of my concerns of the amount of players that are coming out of contract at the end of the season. Because you're going to have to sit tight on me with this one. So you can buy a squad, but it's going to cost you money, right?
Yep.
Now, if all of Town's players are going to be leaving, like the number I've been given is that they expect around 8 to have their contracts renewed by assessment, and there's a lot going. Then if all of those players leave, then it's going to be the ones on the fringes of the youth development. They'll probably be expected to then become the squad backup. Now, some of those players were the ones that were being loaned to local clubs. They're going to have to take a very different approach. They're not going to be loaning 16-year-olds very often to furlough none teams, because the development should be stronger if they stay in-house. So for a little while, I can't see us benefiting from this at a local level.
Well, Dan and Alex have got involved in a straight away. Dan has put, as the new owners have said, they do want to put money into the youth section. So I reckon that there will be a lot of players loaned out around Norfolk border. Alex has put exactly the same thing. If the first team are performing well, it will increase the need for younger lads within the system to go out and grab first team football experience from lower league clubs. Goes hand in hand.
Depends on the squad size, though. That's my concern. Is the squad size that they can carry. The squad's very bloated at the minute, but
it does depend on what moves are made during the summer. For like the immediate impact on it, potentially you might see a bit of a drop off in terms of players that are loaned out. For example, at Bury, Bury have got a very good connection up with Ipswich, haven't they?
Yeah.
So that might have an impact in the short term, but as Alex said, the longer and the better the first team get from a non-league perspective, hopefully that will benefit in the long term, because the lower down that they go, that's the lower the Ipswich go or were going, the harder it is going to be to loan those guys out, because they're going to be needed at other levels, because you promote the under 23s up to the first team, you've got to get the under 18s into the under 23s, and so on and so on and so on. But now, if they are going to be making all of these massive improvements to the football club, which is what they've said, their scouting network is going to have to vastly improve. And ultimately, where do they come? They go to an academy. They go and look at the Needhams, as I said, the Leystons, the Berries, and all of that kind of stuff like that. They'll be going along to all of these games and just going, I like that person, we'll take him.
So the one thing where they could benefit fairly quickly is if we're going to look at a different way of scouting, recruiting, anything else, then how are they going to assess some of these players if they're suddenly changing their model? These players would have been brought in and done on their current way of assessing. Now, if they want people to go out and get match experience and have a look at at what goes behind that, I thought the wage cap has been scrapped.
I thought it had as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it didn't pass in the end. If they want people to go out and get some experience to really be able to have a look at them as to how they'd be able to perform in the men's game, then they could almost virtually disband the under 18s and under 23s just to send everybody out and say, all right, let's get a bit of playing time, and then recruit back into it with the new players that meet that criteria.
That is, everyone talks about it. That's what Brentford have done. They've got rid of all of their youth systems. They have a B team, which goes around England, goes around Europe, playing in friendly matches and competing against different types of players and different opposition. But they invest in the B team by selecting players from different youth academies and stuff like that all around Europe, and they bring them in, they assess them in the B team, and then they either loan them out or they bring them into the first team as and when they sell somebody from the first team. So there's a clear model and a clear plan there, but it's very they've taken a long time embedding that style into their football club. And again, you have to have the right data analytics, the right match analytics, the equipment to go alongside that. You have to have a fantastic scouting network in place to be able to do that. Picking up Ollie Watkins, for example, stroke of genius looking at it now. Those kind of investments are what Ipswich are going to have to do.
But it wouldn't be beyond.
It takes time. It does take time. That's the thing. And with Ipswich, because of the size of the club that they are and because of the league that they're in, Ipswich fans, as much as everyone says that they want lots of changes to be done overall as a whole club, ultimately, if the first team are not going somewhere up through the leagues or at least making some sort of push towards it, people are not going to be happy. People will very quickly turn on, on certain individuals and turn on the first team, etc. Because it's just the way football is.
You go back to that statement though. They say, "Oh yeah, it may take 2 years." Imagine Town fans 2 years time. Oh, this is our 4th season in League One. I can't put up with watching that football for a second partial season. I'm turning it off every week. It's absolute dross. League One football, I never realised how far apart from the Championship it was. It is terrible.
It is terrible.
It is awful. All of the stadiums are in downtown Baghdad. Like, it's just rotten.
Yeah.
Connor Wickham. Do you see that pass he did the other day for Palace reserves?
No.
Oh, absolute worldie. I think he got injured straight afterwards, but that's Connor Wickham.
Classic. But if it does take a couple of years for those improvements to be done and things aren't progressing as quickly as people want, again, non-league football needs to pounce on that and really get these people back through the doors and trying to get those people to stay in non-league football as long as possible. If things aren't happening on the first team, all of the improvements that are being made off Peel don't really mean an awful lot to some people. They will go back when the football's good. So
if you don't win, it counts for nothing, does it?
Yeah.
We're all the same. We're all exactly the same.
Whilst it's not, non-league football needs to capitalise. Dan, look at Baggett, new contract wanted by Premier teams. Now he's been loaned out to Kings Lynn, where I think he should be in Ipswich now, which is a great point. But there's so many ways this could go now. If Ipswich really go down the investment route and really try to get promoted right now, then non-league football in the short term is going to suffer. If Ipswich try and go down this long-term route and over a couple of years and trying to make things on and off the pitch improve at the same level, then non-league football has still got a chance and has got to find creative ways of being able to get people in and also keep people in the door as well. There's a lot of ways that this could go. As I said, from a youth perspective, from the loan system to players coming down into non-league football as well. There's so many variants of how this could go. It's really interesting. It's, not just from an Ipswich perspective. And I know obviously you're heavily invested in that, Adam, which is fair game. But from a non-league perspective as well, like I said, there's at least 10, 20 different roads that this could potentially go down. And it's just going to be interesting to see. It's
going to be hard for non-league either way to get momentum back because it's been away for so long. Ipswich being taken over was almost like a bit of a kick in the balls today. For non-league, but it's a good thing for local football that we've got a club with owners that aren't coming in, and it's not that Marcus Evans has just washed his hands of it and run away. He sold it under a set of terms that he believes will be right for the future of the club.
But I think if things hadn't been going on the way things have been over the past year and a bit, the past 2 seasons have been a massive, massive lost opportunity for non-league football, and through no fault of anybody's. It's just the way things are. But the last 2 years of Ipswich being as bad as they have been for the local area, non-league football could have really, really capitalised on that. And like you said, today's news, just to the point where people are starting to get ready for the new season and coming up with some ideas of how to get people in. Like I said, it does just feel like a bit of a okay, we've now got to start from scratch again. But there we go. This is a great comment. I think the whole video blog concept that Tankstone are doing is a great way of gathering attention from younger football fans new to the idea of non-league football, similar to hashtag. It's a great point. If you haven't checked out the Tankstone videos, they are brilliant. I love them.
I kind of would like to make a point that I actually think that's the future of football monetization. And if you want to, content consumption is at like an all-time high.
Yep.
On YouTube, but adversely, ad revenue for YouTube is at an all-time low.
Yes.
So if you can get people to come on board and actually sponsor, and say like, you know, ad rates are dropping off and everything, we'd like you to sort of take over and we'll take adverts. You know, we won't be a paid channel. We'll take adverts off our channel or whatever. We want you to be part of the advertising. We'll introduce you on every video. You've got guaranteed income, not fluctuating YouTube income.
Yeah, definitely. Dan, apparently Blue Action are not happy as they had a few banners arriving and now they've got to be scrapped.
If they would have looked on TWTD on Saturday, they would have known not to order them.
Yeah, somebody did break this very. Somebody broke this, didn't they? I can't remember who it was, but somebody broke this over the weekend. It's not just been in the past 24 hours where people have started getting a bit happy, because I know some people are trying to take credit for it, but somebody did break this quite a while ago, didn't they? I can't remember who it was.
So I've given you the link on. I think it says a huge thread that started on TWTD, started by a Greyhound on there, and
now bear with me if my page goes a bit funny. Then please bear with me, because when I loaded this up before we tried to go live, my page went a little bit dodgy. So if I suddenly, this is it, isn't it?
Yeah. So like, when's that? 8:30 on Saturday. Broken. That was
68,000 views. Jesus Christ.
That was the first like sight of it.
Right.
That was the first actual sight of the actual it being sort of stated when it would actually happen. And from there, it's just been a waiting game, I guess.
Alex, wasn't it to do with another request for information on the grounds being submitted?
That was just submitted last week, but that was only because the previous ones were running out. It's just the searches. So yeah, it's interesting. So that was all stated. Everything's obviously gone through today, but it's been buzzing away in the background for a long time, apparently.
Yeah.
But when that news broke, like I was watching the forum and it's kicked off.
Cheers, Dan. No, definitely. But it's I think this conversation, we could easily continue this on Monday when we've got more of our audience, our regular audience in, because it's a fascinating discussion. I think we've only kind of scratched the surface on this, really. But I've enjoyed tonight. It's been good unpacking it. Look, it's difficult for me to kind of give a proper opinion on the Ipswich takeover because of my allegiances. I'm not worried about things at the moment. Maybe 5 or 6 years down the line, maybe when Ipswich are at the same sort of level, then we can kind of talk about the derbies being back in some sort of competitive edge on it. But like, I've seen some trash today. I've seen some utter trash of, like stuff that people have been saying about Norwich and stuff like that. It's just like, come on.
I just find it so funny, the American flags and everything.
Oh God, Jesus!
It's just absolute banter. Everything that's coming out, but I'm sure the American flags will get burnt should there be any problems.
Dan, can you not stay on? I don't want to go on the.
It's your own choice to go there anyway, mate. I wouldn't make it.
No, like I said, I think we can continue this conversation on Monday. I think it's a good a good talking point for a lot of people to kind of get their thoughts and opinions on. Yeah, definitely. I'll hopefully we can continue this. But like I said, it's been good chewing the fat on it. It's been good just kind of getting people's thoughts and opinions on it. But as I said, from a non-league perspective, there's lots of different ways that this can go now. And it's going to be a really interesting summer. It's going to be a really interesting season because really, I alluded to it the other day, we don't know the landscape of non-league football until we come back at the beginning of the season. That's the biggest problem we've got at the moment because there hasn't been any non-league football for quite some time. This is just another thing. It's just another ingredient to add into the mixing pot of we don't know what the hell we're going to get. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's really interesting. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, what do you make of it? I think, like I said, there's just too many variants, isn't there? Too many.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not. I'm not of the opinion that they're going to invest tons and tons of money. Pension funds have to make a profit to stay out of deficit. Otherwise, you've got issues. People need to think really carefully about what it is that's invested. And I'm sure they've got some capital behind them and pensions are drawn at a set rate to forecast, but that still means that money will need to come back at some time. And you don't,
because
you
this
don't
is the
invest
thing.
in anything.
Exactly.
Like, if you don't,
because we've both worked in finance, we both understand how it all works, and we've both been in that kind of sector. With pension companies, if they don't see a return, because it is so high risk with pensions, the risk that you do take in certain companies, they will bugger off very quickly.
But they can't keep investing in a loss-making thing because they have to make a profit. Now that's a worry.
Yeah, because it's one aspect. Because obviously the bigger goal is the Premier League, and everyone who invests in a football club wants to get to the Premier League. The rich is involved. That's the bigger aim, and that's where you're going to make your money as a pension fund. But you have got a long bloody way to go to get towards that. You've got to not only get out of League One, you've got to survive in the Championship, which loads of clubs from League One have found is bloody difficult. I mean, look at Rotherham. The infrastructure that Rotherham have got is far more secure than Ipswich, and they are continuously struggling year in, year out in the Championship. You have got parachute payments galore in the Championship. The amount of teams that were in the Premier League who are now just sitting mid-table, not doing anything, and just struggling to kind of make ends meet and get out of it. You've got to navigate your way through that. And then you've got to get to the Premier League. And then you've got to stay in there because Norwich found it out. If you stay in there for one season, it means absolutely jack. It means absolutely nothing. Like before Stuart Webber came in, we were this close to going to the wall. We were in serious financial problems because of the investments that you have to make to try and stay there. That's why Norwich are not taking a risk on things now, because last season we were criticised very heavily for not investing. Well, we found out the hard way. You invest at the wrong time, your club can very easily go to the wall. And we weren't prepared to make that happen. So from a hedge fund's perspective, they don't think like things like a football fan does of, oh, let's just pump 40 million into it and have a good go of it. No, they're not going to do that. Why the hell would they take that much of a gamble? Why would they take that much of a risk? These guys have got to play things smart. And as I said, come 4 or 5 years down the line, if things are not happening the way they want, those people who have got their money involved in that are going to be asking some serious questions. And then how long do they then hang about for? Do you know, I get the hype. I understand why people are excited about it, but you've just got to think about things logically. These are hedge funds. They're not people. They are hedge funds who are there for one reason and for one reason only. They want to make money. And the only way you're going to do that is by getting to the Premier League. How are you going to do that?
Earlier on, I watched another podcast and they said about, and they've got fans' opinions on, and they said they're talking about other clubs, and they claimed that we're a bigger club than Burnley, and Burnley have got £80 million in the bank. One, we are not currently a bigger club than Burnley. Like Burnley are an established Premier League side. Like, do you know what I mean? Have been for a while. They've been able to invest in good players over a good amount of time, and they've settled. Now, Burnley have got £80 million in the bank because they've invested in a profit model.
Yeah.
Ipswich will become a lesser version of that.
Yeah.
There's no way, unless you've got Man City levels of investment, that you're going to become bigger clubs than those mid-table ambling Premier League teams. Once upon a time, Ipswich were a bigger club than Burnley. But very much like tables, things move.
Football changes.
Football changes, and we have to learn to live with it. Norwich are a bigger club than Ipswich right now, with better pulling power. That's just the way of the world. Better recruitment strategies. They're playing more entertaining football. That hurts as a town fan, but you have to live with the fact that that's the reality of it. And without the right investment done in the right way and with a football brain, you're never even going to catch those people.
Yeah.
But football goes around in circles.
Yeah. But, going to us, it took a year and a half worth of poor football, people not understanding things under Daniel Farker for it to finally kick in and start working. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. Our finances had to be completely ripped apart. The whole club was restructured. The uproar when the club got rid of Darren Huckabee from the youth system was mayhem. Like, I can't believe the club have done this. It's disgusting the way we're treating one of our legends. But it was done with the right reasons and the right intentions behind it. But fans don't see that. Now, looking back on it, it's an absolute stroke of genius. Absolute stroke of genius what we've done, because it made sense.
I've said there, though, like, football being something that comes around in circles. Norwich weren't in League One that long ago, and they've been in the Premiership twice since, I think. And they're about to be for a third time. Is it twice? Once? It is twice.
Three times.
Right. Now, look what that's done. Look what that's done for their business model. Parachute payments, like an accidental thing, but in terms of the money, you're stabilised and you become a bigger club. Look at the ticket sales. You become a bigger club.
But you invest in people like James Maddison, you sell him on. You invest in Josh Murphy, Jacob Murphy, you sell them on. Alex Pritchard, for example, we sold him on for stupid money, absolutely stupid money. Jamal Lewis, Ben Godfrey. We got more money for Jamal Lewis and Ben Godfrey than Ipswich have done for their sale. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
but it does contextualize things in terms of the assets that you've invested in.
But but do you know what I mean? That, like, there was a clear thought behind it. It's taken a long time to get there, but it is there. Cheers, Gary. Love that. Anyway, we're going to wrap things up there, guys. It's an hour and 15 minutes. I've loved chewing the fat with you all about all of this. This has been absolutely fantastic. I've loved doing tonight's show. As I said, the conversation will carry on Monday night. Hopefully, we'll see as many of you there as we possibly can. But it's been a really good show. Thank you ever so much for watching. Until next time, as always, guys, adios. Cheerio.